When it comes to the Clásico Nacional, there's really no such thing as a friendly match, is there? And in this latest battle between Chivas and America, one single goal wasn't just a number on the scoreboard, it was a piece of history.
Now, while this was technically an exhibition game, for one guy on the field, the legendary Javier Chicharito Hernandez, it was anything but. For him, this was personal. This was about settling a debt that had been hanging over his entire career.
All right, so let's get right into it, because the moment that completely defined this game, it happened almost as soon as it started.
Yep, you're seeing that right. Just 3 minutes into the match. I mean, people were probably still finding their seats when the whole game got flipped on its head by one incredible moment.
So how did it all go down? Well, it kicked off with a pretty big defensive mistake from America. The ball ends up with Ricardo Ledesma. He takes a shot, it gets deflected, but the rebound lands perfectly for Toon Wilk, who slides a low cross right to Chicharito. All he had to do was tap it in.
But listen, this was so much more than just a tap-in. This was a huge moment. In his entire amazing career, Chicharito had never, ever scored a goal against his club's biggest rival, America. So this goal didn't just break that curse, it also snapped a really frustrating scoring drought he'd been in all semester.
Of course, you can imagine what happens next, right? Conceding a goal that early against your biggest rival is guaranteed to light a fire. Suddenly, America had no choice but to shift gears and just go on an all-out attack.
And for the rest of that first half, it basically turned into a duel. You had America's attack, led by guys like Rodrigo Aguirre and Brian Rodriguez, just throwing everything they had at the goal. But they kept running into one man, the Chivas goalkeeper Oscar Wally.
And this quote really sums it up perfectly. It says, "The keeper, who amazingly hadn't even played all semester, responded with confidence in both actions to maintain the lead for the herd. He was a wall, and he's the reason Chivas was still ahead at halftime."
But you know how it is, a 1-0 lead is always fragile. And when the second half kicked off, the momentum of the game swung wildly, and it all led to a pretty chaotic and messy finish for everyone.
Just look at how fast everything fell apart for Chivas. At the 60-minute mark, they have a golden opportunity to basically seal the win. 1 minute later, the game's tied. And from there, the final moments were just spoiled by an injury and disruptions from the crowd. It was a total unraveling.
And this was the turning point, the costly miss. Toon Wilk sets up Efrain Alvarez perfectly to make it 2-0, but he just can't finish it. And literally 60 seconds later, they paid the ultimate price. Brian Rodriguez finds Victor Davila, who drills a low shot from outside the box to tie it up. Just a brutal whiplash moment.
And things didn't exactly get tidier from there. On the field, Isaias Volante had to be taken out late in the game with a muscle injury, and then in the stands, fans from both sides started lighting flares, filling the stadium with smoke and making it tough to even see. It was not the clean finish either team was looking for.
So with that pretty wild friendly in the books, both teams are now packing their bags, heading home, and turning their focus back to the official league competition in Mexico.
And there is no time to rest for these giants. America gets back home to prepare for another huge rivalry game, the Clásico Joven against Cruz Azul. Meanwhile, Chivas is heading back to Guadalajara to host Mazatlan for the league's 13th match day. The grind just doesn't stop.
So, at the end of the day, the final score was 1-1. A draw. But when you think about everything that happened, Chicharito's historic goal and then Chivas' costly collapse, you have to ask yourself, did this really feel like a tie? Or did one side walk away with a psychological win and the other with a crushing defeat? That's the real question they're taking back to Mexico.